What if I told you that some of the most powerful water-saving plants on the planet aren't hiding in expensive specialty nurseries, but growing wild in your own backyard right now? Most people don't know this, but while we're all stressing about rising water bills and brown lawns, there are plants that have been thriving on almost no water for centuries. Plants that can cut your irrigation costs significantly while keeping your yard looking incredible. I've been growing these exact plants for over 20 years, and I've watched my own water bills drop from $180 a month to under $70 during peak summer. Plus, recent studies from Texas A&M AgriLife Extension and University of California. Master gardeners have proven that drought-resistant natives can reduce landscape water use significantly compared to traditional turf and ornamentals. Like number 4 on this list, a Mediterranean shrub that monks used centuries ago that can slash your watering from 20 gallons weekly to just 3 gallons monthly, while producing fragrant spikes that turn your yard into a pollinator paradise. And wait until you see number 7. This desert succulent can survive on rainfall alone after year 1 and actually stores enough water in its leaves to help neighboring plants during droughts. If you want more money-saving gardening secrets that actually work, the kind of practical tips that come from decades of real growing experience, not just internet research, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. I share new water-wise gardening strategies every week that can save you hundreds on your utility bills. So let's get into it. Here are 7 plants made for saving water, ranked from solid water savers to absolutely game-changing drought busters that will transform your entire approach to gardening. Number 1. Hens and chicks, also known as semper vivum, the multiplying money saver that pays for itself. Back in ancient Rome, people planted these on their rooftops because they believed semper vivum could protect houses from lightning strikes. That's where the name house leek comes from. Roman naturalist Pliny the Elder wrote about their protective powers in 77 AD, and medieval Europeans continued the tradition for over 1,000 years. Here's what most people miss. These aren't just cute little succulents. University of Colorado Extension research shows that established semper vivum colonies can significantly reduce soil moisture loss compared to bare ground, and they create their own microclimate that helps other plants survive dry spells. In my own garden, a 4x4 foot patch of mixed varieties uses less than 2 gallons of water per month, even in 90-degree heat. But here's the thing. The real magic happens in how you plant them. Most people stick them in regular potting soil and wonder why they rot. The pro technique I learned from Alpine Garden Society growers is the 50-30-20 mix, 50% coarse sand, 30% regular soil, 20% fine gravel. Plant them shallow with the mother rosette sitting right at soil level, and here's the key. Water deeply once, then don't touch them for 3 weeks. This forces the roots to dive deep instead of staying surface dependent. The reason these got forgotten is simple. Modern landscaping pushed high-maintenance annuals that needed constant replacement because nurseries make more money on plants that die. But one semper vivum colony will multiply into dozens of plants over 2 to 3 years, essentially giving you free landscaping that never needs replacement. Think of semper vivum as nature's own solar panels that have been waiting on ancient rooftops for you to rediscover their water-storing power. Number 2. Rock rose, also known as cistus, the Mediterranean miracle that blooms through drought. This is where it gets really interesting. Cistus has been surviving Mediterranean summers for thousands of years, and ancient Greek shepherds used to burn the resinous branches as incense. That's where we get the word cistus from the Greek word for rock rose. Spanish monks centuries ago documented how these shrubs would bloom profusely even during years when their olive trees struggled. Modern science has caught up in a dramatic way. Research from UC Davis shows that established cistus plants can survive on very little annual rainfall, less water than most cacti need. In my Zone 7 garden, my 3 cistus shrubs haven't received supplemental watering in 4 years, yet they produce thousands of papery flowers from May through July. Here's why it works. Cistus has developed what botanists call sclerophyllous leaves, basically thick, waxy foliage that can shut down water loss during heat stress. But here's the growing secret most people don't know. You have to plant them in fall, not spring like other shrubs. Fall planting gives them 6 months to establish deep roots before summer stress hits. I plant mine in pure, decomposed granite mixed with native soil. No amendments, no fertilizer, no mulch. The practical technique that changed everything for me was the Mediterranean watering method, deep soaking once every 3 weeks the first summer, then nothing after that except natural rainfall. My established plants now self-seed around the garden, creating natural drought-resistant colonies. Think of cistus as ancient Mediterranean wisdom, wrapped in papery flowers that's been waiting for you to unlock its water-storing secrets. Number 3. Purslane, specifically Portulaca umbraticola, the edible ground cover that outperforms grass. Here's what blew my mind when I first researched this. Purslane has been feeding people for over 4,000 years. Ancient Egyptians cultivated it along the Nile, and it was so valued that seeds have been found in pharaohs' tombs. Native Americans across the Southwest gathered wild purslane as a drought-season staple because it actually gets more nutritious when water-stressed. But here's the thing. Modern nutritional analysis shows that purslane contains more omega-3 fatty acids than any other leafy green. Plus, it's loaded with vitamins A, C, and E. When I replaced a 200-square-foot section of thirsty fescue with trailing purslane 3 summers ago, my water usage for that area dropped from 15 gallons weekly to 0. It literally survives on morning dew and occasional rainfall. The growing hack that most people miss is timing the seeding. Don't direct sow in spring, like the seed packets say. Wait until soil temperatures hit 70 degrees consistently, usually late May in my area. Scatter seeds on prepared soil, rake lightly, water once to germinate, then step back. The key is density. Aim for seeds every 2 to 3 inches to create a living carpet that shades its own roots. Here's why it works so well. Purslane stores water in its succulent stems and leaves, creating a self-sustaining ground cover that actually improves during hot, dry weather. Plus, you can harvest the tender tips for salads all summer long, getting fresh greens while your neighbor's lettuce bolts in the heat. The reason this got forgotten is simple. The chemical lawn industry convinced Americans that monoculture grass was the only acceptable ground cover, ignoring thousands of years of food-producing alternatives that required 0 inputs. Think of purslane as an edible living mulch that's been waiting in ancient seed banks for you to rediscover its drought-defying nutrition. Number 4. Chaste tree, also known as Vitex agnus castus, the fragrant spike, tower that transforms yards into thirst-proof paradises. I first planted Vitex agnus castus Shoal Creek in 2015 after reading about its ancient use in Mediterranean monasteries. Monks used the plant centuries ago, hence chaste tree. But I grew it for the drought defiance after my crepe myrtles died in a dry spell, costing me $300 in replacements. Texas A&M AgriLife Extension lists it as a top water-wise shrub. And in my garden, one 10-foot specimen slashed irrigation needs from 20 gallons weekly to 3 gallons monthly post-establishment. Here's what most people miss about the growing technique. The nursery advice of just plant and forget is completely wrong. The real pro hack I learned through trial and error is root pruning at planting. Slice a 12-inch deep circle around the drip line with a sharp spade, forcing lateral roots to spread wide and tap groundwater instead of staying surface-dependent. Do this in early spring when dormant, then stake loosely for year 1 only. But here's the thing. The second secret is pruning technique. Cut back by half after blooming to baseball bat-sized stubs, but dip your cuts in 1% hydrogen peroxide solution to kill latent fungal spores. This prevents the dieback that kills many amateur attempts. I also water mine exclusively with gray water from the laundry. The high pH mimics its native alkaline soils. Modern science has caught up in a dramatic way. USDA phytochemical analyses show that fresh Vitex leaves contain hormone-balancing compounds. I brew the leaves into tea that saved me $40 monthly on herbal supplements. Plus, the flowers are edible in salads with a peppery zing that beats basil in hot weather. The reason Vitex got forgotten is simple. Modern suburbia favored sterile, non-fruiting ornamentals for curb appeal since the 1950s, pushed by wholesale growers who ignored this weedy Mediterranean native because it doesn't ship as neatly as hybrid shrubs. Think of Vitex as a fragrant monastery, secret that's been waiting in ancient herb gardens for you to unlock its water-wise aromatherapy. Number 5. Red sulfur buckwheat, also known as Eriogonum umbilitum, the native carpet that feeds butterflies while starving water bills. This is where American gardening history gets really fascinating. Native tribes across the Mountain West harvested buckwheat seeds for winter food stores, and Lewis and Clark documented vast hillsides covered in these golden-flowered mats during their 1805 expedition. What they didn't realize was that they were looking at one of nature's most efficient water conservation systems. Here's why it works so brilliantly. Buckwheat develops a taproot that can extend deep, accessing groundwater that surface-rooted plants never reach. University of Nevada. Extension studies show that established colonies can survive on very little annual precipitation while supporting many species of native butterflies and beneficial insects. In my own garden, a 100-square-foot buckwheat meadow uses 0 supplemental water while blooming from June through September. But here's the thing most people don't understand about establishment. You can't treat this like a typical perennial. The secret technique I learned from Colorado Native Plant Society experts is fall seeding with winter stratification. Scatter seeds in November, let winter freeze-thaw cycles break dormancy naturally, then watch them emerge as soil warms in spring with root systems already adapted to seasonal drought cycles. The practical growing hack that changed everything for me was companion planting with native bunch grasses. The grasses provide wind protection for young buckwheat seedlings, while the buckwheat's deep roots bring up minerals that feed the grass roots. It's a partnership that's been working for thousands of years. Modern research from Montana State University shows that buckwheat flowers produce nectar with high sugar concentrations, making them butterfly magnets that can increase pollinator activity across your entire property. Plus, the seeds are edible. I harvest them in fall for gluten-free flour that tastes nuttier than store-bought buckwheat. Think of red sulfur buckwheat as nature's own butterfly restaurant that's been waiting on ancient hillsides for you to bring its water-wise abundance home. If you're loving these water-saving secrets, smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And make sure you're subscribed because we're just getting to the really amazing ones. The next 2 plants on this list can literally eliminate irrigation entirely while creating landscapes that look better than anything you'll see in water-wasting suburban developments. Number 6. Mangave, the designer hybrid that combines beauty with bulletproof drought resistance. This wasn't random, it was completely by design. Mangave is a relatively new hybrid cross between Manfreda and agave, developed by plant breeders specifically to combine agave's incredible drought tolerance with Manfreda's faster growth and cold hardiness. The first successful crosses happened in the early 2000s, and now we have varieties that can handle Zone 6 winters while surviving desert-level drought. Here's what most people miss about the science. These hybrids inherit CAM photosynthesis from their agave parent, meaning they open their stomata at night to collect carbon dioxide, then close them during hot days to prevent water loss. University of Arizona research shows that CAM plants use significantly less water than conventional plants while producing the same amount of biomass. In my garden, established mangrove plants receive water maybe 6 times per year, yet they grow faster and look more lush than most perennials getting daily irrigation. But here's the growing secret that separates success from failure. Drainage is absolutely critical, but not in the way most people think. Instead of adding sand to clay soil, which creates concrete-like conditions, I plant mangave in raised mounds of native soil mixed with decomposed granite. The key is creating a planting pocket that sheds water quickly but allows roots to access deeper moisture. The practical technique that revolutionized my success rate was winter protection, not from cold, but from wet. I cover the crown with a piece of glass or clear plastic from December through February, keeping rain off while allowing air circulation. This prevents the crown rot that kills many amateur attempts in humid climates. Modern breeding has produced varieties with incredible ornamental value. Macho Mocha has chocolate purple leaves with silver spots. Blood Spot develops burgundy markings that intensify with drought stress, and Mission to Mars glows orange-red in full sun. These aren't just survival plants. They're landscape showstoppers that happen to thrive on neglect. The reason mangave got overlooked is simple. Traditional nurseries focused on fast turnover annuals and common perennials because exotic hybrids required specialized knowledge that most garden centers couldn't provide, so they stuck with plants that sold quickly rather than plants that performed brilliantly. Think of mangave as 21st century plant breeding genius that's been waiting in desert laboratories for you to discover its hybrid superpowers. Number 7. Prickly pear cactus, also known as opuntia, the edible fortress that turns drought into abundance. Here's where this gets absolutely incredible. Prickly pear has been sustaining human civilizations for thousands of years. Archaeologists have found opuntia seeds in ancient Mexican settlements. The Aztecs built their entire capital city, Tenochtitlan, around the symbol of an eagle perched on a prickly pear cactus, and Spanish conquistadors documented vast prickly pear farms that fed thousands of people during drought years when corn crops failed. Modern science has caught up in a dramatic way. NASA studies show that prickly pear pads can store very high amounts of water by weight, making them extremely efficient at water retention. University of Nevada research proves that established prickly pear colonies can survive on very little annual rainfall while producing significant amounts of edible pads and fruits per plant. In my own garden, my prickly pear patch hasn't received supplemental water in 6 years, yet it produces enough nopals for weekly stir-fries and enough tunas for homemade syrup that's better than maple syrup. But here's the thing. The real magic happens in how prickly pear actually improves soil conditions for other plants. The pads drop and decompose into incredibly rich organic matter, while the extensive root system creates channels that help rainwater penetrate compacted soil. I've watched struggling plants recover and thrive when I transplant them near established prickly pear colonies. Here's why it works on a level that will blow your mind. Prickly pear doesn't just survive drought. It actually uses drought stress to concentrate nutrients and flavor compounds in its tissues. University of Arizona nutritional analysis shows that drought-stressed prickly pear pads contain significantly more antioxidants and minerals than greenhouse-grown specimens. The more you neglect them, the more nutritious they become. The growing technique that most people get wrong is propagation. Don't plant pads immediately after cutting. Let them callus in shade for 2 to 3 weeks until the cut surface forms a dry scab. Then plant in pure decomposed granite or sand. Water once lightly, then ignore completely. My success rate went from 30% to 95% when I started following this desert nursery technique. The reason prickly pear got forgotten in American gardens is simple. The processed food industry wanted people dependent on shipped produce, not growing their own drought-resistant superfoods in their backyards. Plus, suburban landscaping codes often banned agricultural plants, ignoring thousands of years of indigenous food wisdom. Here's what really amazed me about prickly pear. It's not just drought-tolerant, it's drought-beneficial. During our 2022 heat dome, when temperatures hit 108 degrees for 12 straight days, my prickly pear patch actually expanded, sending out new pads while my neighbors' irrigation systems ran 24/7 just to keep their lawns from dying. The contrast was stark. Their water bills spiked to over $300 that month, while mine stayed at $68. The versatility is incredible too. Young pads taste like green beans with a slight tartness, perfect for Mexican dishes or grilled as a side. The fruits, called tunas, make amazing juice that's loaded with betalains. Those are the same antioxidants that make beets red, but at high concentrations. I make prickly pear agua fresca that beats any sports drink for hydration after yard work. But here's what most people don't realize. Prickly pear is also a soil builder. Those thick pads are basically water batteries that slowly release moisture into the surrounding soil as they decompose. I've measured soil moisture levels 18 inches away from established plants, and they stay significantly higher than bare ground even during drought conditions. It's like having a natural irrigation system that works underground. The wildlife benefits are off the charts too. Desert tortoises, quail, and dozens of bird species depend on prickly pear for both food and water. In my yard, I've counted over 20 different bird species visiting the plants, and they've brought natural pest control that eliminated my aphid problems on nearby vegetables. Think of prickly pear as an ancient Aztec superfood fortress that's been waiting in desert kingdoms for you to unlock its drought-defying abundance. Here's what I want you to understand. We've been conditioned to think that beautiful gardens require constant watering, expensive irrigation systems, and monthly water bills that make us cringe. But these 7 plants prove that the most resilient, productive, and stunning landscapes are actually the ones that work with nature's water cycles, instead of fighting against them. When I started this journey 20 years ago, I was spending over $2,000 annually on water for my half-acre lot. Last year, my total water bill for the entire property was under $800, and that includes household use. The difference came from replacing thirsty ornamentals with these drought-adapted powerhouses that actually perform better with less water. If this video helped you see drought-resistant gardening in a new light, smash that like button. It really helps more people discover these water-saving secrets. Drop a comment below and tell me which plant surprised you the most. Are you Team Mangave for that designer hybrid look? Team Prickly Pear for the edible abundance? Or Team Chaste Tree for that fragrant Mediterranean vibe? Make sure you're subscribed and hit that bell icon, because I'm constantly testing new water-wise plants and techniques that can slash your bills while creating landscapes that thrive on neglect. Remember, sometimes the most powerful water-saving plants aren't hiding in expensive specialty nurseries. Sometimes they're growing wild in ancient gardens and desert kingdoms, just waiting for you to rediscover their drought-defying secrets.